Okay, Kyle, now I wasn't going to hop on Locked On Canucks today, but I got this angry text from you saying that we disrespected JT Miller, trying to load the top line for Pettersson, giving him Pius Suter some great linemen on the third line. But what about JT? Well, we're going to talk about JT and his potential line mates next year on Locked On Canucks.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a little bonus episode here of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, Canucks writer and credentialed media member for Daily Hive, Vancouver. And before we dive into this bonus episode, we got to thank you for tuning into Locked On Canucks. It's your team every day, baby. Make sure you subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, again, we're minimum 3 days a week here, so I wasn't sure if, we were going to hop on Locked On Canucks today. But then, Kyle, you texted me all pissed off. You said, how dare you? How dare you do this to JT Miller? Give, Pettersson and Pius Suter all the best line mates. So let's talk about it, man. JT Miller and his line mates. First and foremost, I know your panties were in a knot when you texted me there. But how you feeling now, buddy?
No, I was just a little confused, for real. And more on that in a couple of minutes. Kyle Bowen, Trevor Beggs, Locked On Canucks, your team every day. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Subscribe and leave us a like/review wherever you listen to this podcast episode. And remember, people, it's a fan-first program, so I'm hacking darts and breaking hearts. I'm trying to change the voice for the people. Anyways, JT Miller, his line mates, again, only inspired to have this conversation because I realized that yesterday we gave Pius Suter, Garland, and Mikheyev. We gave Pettersson, Kuzmenko, obviously, and Besser. And we just left Miller with, good players, Beauvillier and either Hoglander or Podkolzin. But I feel as if he still gets the short end of the stick. And maybe this conversation is happening out of some disgust for that, but mainly it's happening, and I didn't tell you this because I wanted you to react to this. It's also happening because, are you sure that's best for JT Miller? Like, we're really asking him to do a lot if his line mates are Beauvillier and Podkolzin, Beauvillier or Hoglander. Are we getting the most out of JT Miller and utilizing, it's not about the cap hit, but, potentially getting him back to that 99-point pace because he can be that guy if we're giving him not the best wingers on the team. I guess what I'm asking is, aren't the Canucks in a better spot if they load up JT Miller's line?
I mean, you could argue yes, right? Because I think Pettersson has the ability to carry his own line a bit more than JT Miller. That being said, I think we've talked about it earlier this offseason, how I believe that there's 3 players on the Canucks that can drive a line of their own, and they are Pettersson, Miller, and Garland. And I think by having all 3 of those players on separate lines is probably the best way to spread out the offense. But at the end of the day, you're right, man. It's JT Miller deserves some good line mates. That being said, I'm kind of thinking about what happened with Talkett last season, and JT Miller obviously kind of hit his stride, and he was over a point a game player. We had Phil DiGiuseppe riding shotgun with him, man. Like, this guy's been in the AHL for most of the last couple of seasons, So, and Brock Besser was doing all right there as well. Obviously, he's a good player. I struggle with this, but at the end of the day, I think it's just what I want to see from the Canucks. I want to see them load up that top line. I think it's the best way to get the most out of Besser, which is good if you're trying to trade him. I think I'd just seen enough of Miller and Besser last year and kind of the defensive lapses in their game, especially when they were on the ice together, that I want to see something different on JT Miller's line. And everydayers know this, but, talk about JT Miller's line mates. I mean, my most optimistic and ideal scenario is that Hoglander and Podkolzin blow the doors off in training camp and kind of earn second line spots. Now, for one of them to do that would be a big deal. For both of them to do that seems damn near impossible. But I think that's the best situation for the Canucks. And maybe it is a guy like Mikheyev going up there too. I was watching some more Mikheyev clips yesterday as well, and that guy made some plays too, man. So, maybe I'm discrediting him by putting him on the third line, but I do think that's a role he's best suited for. So, yeah, I don't know, man. Going back and forth, I do like the idea of maybe having Beauvillier and Podkolzin up there. And, again, I think Podkolzin and Miller would form an awesome tandem, but Podkolzin's got to earn it.
Yeah, and more on that duo right now, because I do want to touch on it. I think Miller is the perfect guy to allow Podkolzin to not just be more reckless, but be more confident. You
Mm-hmm.
got the vet with you who's also, offensively inclined, and JT Miller, Podkolzin could be feeling some swagger off of that. And I also feel as if JT Miller, if he does form this close relationship, not just based on them being in the same dressing room together, but being on the ice together, it bodes well because he's the type of guy that can hold Podkolzin accountable. Now, if we're talking about who's best for JT Miller, who is it? Is it Podkolzin or Hoglander based on how they play? I'm curious to see what you have to say about this. A part of me knows the answer is probably going to be Podkolzin as well, and partially because Hoglander and Beauvillier could do similar things. Am I correct on that?
Ooh, what a great question. And I hate to be a tease, but I'm going to let you know on the other side because we got to shout out a sponsor, okay? Kyle, I wouldn't be here without AG1, okay? Because, newborn life has me short on sleep. It's harder to work out and eat healthy like I used to once upon a time. So I have a hard time living life without my AG1 in the morning. Since I've been drinking AG1, I've noticed an overall feeling of sustained energy, support for mental clarity, and focus. And I need that to bring you the goods here on Locked On Canucks. Hey, AG1, they use a science-driven formulation of vitamins, probiotics, and whole food source nutrients. Science, baby. And Kyle, you and I, we're over the 30 years old mark, and I know that we both need a project like AG1 to keep us feeling like we're only 29. So if a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs of AG1 with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/NHL Network. That's drinkag1.com/NHL Network. Check it out.
By the way, before we get back to the show, I got to remind you again that every episode of Locked On Canucks will be available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, your favorite podcatcher at 4:20 p.m. for no reason at all. Again, every episode of Locked On Canucks at 4:20 p.m. for no reason at all. Let's get back to the show.
Okay, we back on this shortened episode of Locked On Canucks. Kyle Bowen, Trevor Beggs just had to hop on and talk to the people and talk to each other about this conundrum, because I think it is a bit of one that we've spent a lot of time this summer talking about, Pettersson's line mates. And then as soon as we get Pius Suter, and even when we had Teddy Bluger, we're giving those guys our other best wingers and leaving JT Miller responsible for developing Podkolzin and potentially increasing Beauvillier's trade value. It's a lot. It's a lot. And does he have that ability? Haven't we seen the best from JT when he's, playing with better players? Now, I will agree with you. I think I'm done seeing Besser and Miller play together. It just doesn't make sense stylistically. I don't know. Just don't like it if it's off the power play. But again, we have to have this conversation because the mind's racing, and I'm looking now, for whatever reason, maybe I dreamt about this, to make the most out of JT Miller. The Canucks are a better team if Miller does really well versus if Pius Suter does really well. You know what I'm saying? And I would like Miller to exceed his value too. I think if he gets back to the 90-point range, then that contract for 1 year is worth it. And that's appealing. That's sexy. That drives play. That leads to more wins. So I'll ask you again. If the lines are the way you want them, right? Besser, Kuzmenko, Pettersson, line number 1. Line number 3, we load up Suter with Mikheyev and Garland. Who out of Hoglander / Podkolzin best complements Miller? And let's just say both these players reach the next level. Again, who is best for Miller?
Yeah, between Hoglander and Podkolzin, honestly, that's a tough one for me because I think if they hit their peak, I think they both complement him really well. Because I think Miller, he's a better playmaker than a lot of people give him credit for. And I think with Hoglander and Podkolzin, you have two guys who, they can work hard along the boards. They both know how to find the net. They have a nose for the net. I mean, I would probably argue Podkolzin, just because I think Miller in general is kind of trusted with more of that 200-foot game at even strength, takes on some tougher matchups. That's better for Podkolzin. That being said, I'd be okay if Miller's line is the one that they set free next season. Give Pettersson the tough matchups, give Pius Suter's line the tough matchups. that fourth line with Bluger or Amon, give them some tough matchups too. I'd be okay if they just let Miller's line free next season, if possible. I know it's easier on home ice. We got last change. So between the two, I go Podkolzin. But again, I think the reason why I like that trio of Hoglander, Podkolzin, and Miller is, and again, caveat is Hoglander and Podkolzin got to earn it. They got to hit their ceilings. But I think they both complement him really well because they both got great puck skills. They work hard along the boards. They can be aggressive on the forecheck. I guess maybe Podkolzin on that line to me is the guy that's maybe got to sit back a bit more because I think Miller can be aggressive. Hoglander can be aggressive on the forecheck. So it's like one of those between that trio, one of those guys is gonna have to, sit back a bit sometimes, so they don't all get burned.
That's a great answer because you're allowing my mind to work in 100 different ways. And we did mention this yesterday. Yes, yesterday we did drop an episode, right? It's your team every day. Boom, bam, your team every day. We talked about the third line. Again, Pius Suter playing with Mikheyev and Garland and other potential combinations. We also talked about the cap as well and how the Canucks can get under it. And we're thinking they can do this the safe way, right? The easy way. Pullman, Pearson, long-term injured reserve, they'll get it done. But let's say, they can't play that card. Another card that they can play, if Podkolzin and Hoglander bring it in camp, is potentially being open to trading Beauvillier before the season starts. Because a lot of teams could use Beauvillier. And with Garland and Hoglander, we may already have two, similar types of players. Because I don't know if they want to bury Beauvillier on the fourth line.
That's a fair point. It's a lot of money for the fourth line.
It is, and maybe they can capitalize off of what he did last season. And this is ironic, too, because I really like Beauvillier as well. I want the Canucks to do really, really good next season, like take the next step. And to do that, they need to ice the best hockey team. And when it comes to finding cap relief, you can get cap relief by trading Garland or Beauvillier, but you're not a better hockey team. If you trade Myers and tag a third round pick, a second round pick, I think you're neutral when it comes to how your hockey team is after a trade. But I don't want to do that too. So it's a conundrum. Again, I'm going to use that word again. A lot of things. I'll give you my answer. I think Podkolzin, Beauvillier, and Miller could do it. They could be that ideal second line. But when I read that out loud, I think it kind of scares me that in order for that line to work, we need JT Miller to be on another level. Like he's not really being assisted, he has to not only drive a line, but really lead by example and just be that guy. And getting the most out of JT Miller is more important than getting the most out of Pius Suter. Okay. Locked On Canucks, Kyle Bowen, Trevor Beggs. Again, a shortened episode. Let's get to comment corner quickly, right? Have a couple laughs here because man, oh man, Jay versus Kyle is a thing. It really is. Anyways, comment corner.
Welcome to Comment Corner, powered by Paraphrasing.
This comment comes from our favorite fan, Jay.
Kyle, it is your voice that is the biggest problem with the show. I watch every second of the show and buy myself ice cream for getting through it. Anyways, good episode, Trevor.
All right, off the top, I told the listeners that I'm hacking darts and breaking hearts. I'm damaging my lungs in order for the chance that I allow my voice to potentially change. The smoker's voice? Maybe it'll allow my voice to, get to a different tone and be more tolerable for the people who want to, listen to Locked On Canucks, but can't because Kyle Bowen is one of the voices. Now, I know that's some dangerous lingo, right? Because smoking does suck. And I think I scared Trevor because last night, this guy called me at 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock to talk about one thing and one thing only, and that was to get me off the darts. Trevor Beggs comes to my house. He knocks on my door. I'm cooking steak while hacking a dart. This guy walks into my door, grabs my dart, puts it in the toilet, and gives me one of those accountability talks. And Beggsy, I'm not gonna lie. I know it's uncomfortable calling out your homies. I think it's uncomfortable, telling another man what to do. But it's that type of leadership and that type of friendship that, makes our friendship something that is special, but also makes this show something special, right? Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every day. It's a hockey show, but it's also a very friendly show. It really is. Doesn't matter how the comments are going. We're going to promote friendship and love from the jump on every episode right until the end because we're going to lead with love. And more notably, you love us or hate us. We are all locked on Canucks. I mean, Canucks. Anywho, Begsy, you can take what I just gave you, and say whatever you want. And then at the end of it, just sign us out, okay?
Yeah, we got to get out of here, man. It is the bonus episode after all. I was got to say, Kyle, you picked a bad time to start smoking a pack a day because I'm living bachelor life right now, man. No wife, no kids, lots of free time on my hands. So I had the time to, drive a half an hour to your house just to throw your cigarette in the toilet, man. So it is what it is, man. It's just, health is wealth. I want to, Locked On Canucks, your team every day for eternity, okay? We're going to be here a long, 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 long time. And whether you're an everyday or an occasional listener, if it's your first time listening, I hope you join us for the ride ahead, okay? Coming up this week, a couple crossover episodes, okay? That one with Locked On Sharks is live on their channel. We're going to post it on our channel likely tomorrow. I have a chat with the Locked On Flames host this week as well. We'll post that on our feed. Then from there, Kyle, I think let's revisit some old drafts. That's on my mind, man. But we'll hit the drawing board. We'll brainstorm. But for now, I'm Trevor Biggs. That guy's Kyle Bowen. And you've been listening to Locked On Canucks.
Peace.